Well, Jack, if you don't know, Ronnie, Chief Catrell is on here, and he is our new fire chief, filling the vacancy created by the retirement of our fire chief, Terry Curtin. So I think what we'll do, Chief, is try this again in March, and hopefully we'll have more people in attendance. Um, so while I have everybody on board or here, that's what I plan on doing in March is actually holding this in person. We will have an in-person coffee with the mayor for the first time in probably 14, 15 months. I think we can do it safely. I'm not worried about it. What I saw last Friday on the going away party with Karen, what that showed me is that we were able to do that, and people remained masked. There was food that was available, and people helped themselves. Oh, Lois is here. Hello, Lois. Um, but so, any event, that's the game plan for next month, barring any catastrophe. We will do it either at City Hall or at the rec center, whatever staff deems appropriate. But I will leave it up to Bola to make that call. Um, well, let's go ahead and get started. Since we have Lois here, you all, I'm not going to let you go just yet. I do have a few things to discuss. If I can pull my outline up here. Let's see here. Okay. First of all, Lois, you know this because I know you're active on Facebook. But I was telling Jack Shelton that also in attendance today is Ronnie Catrell, our new fire chief. Lois, I know you know him from being involved in the community as much as you have been, but we're thrilled to have him on board, and we're thrilled that he was willing to take on this responsibility, this exciting job, and to continue to lead our fire department. And I'm absolutely confident, as is the board, that we are in really good hands with Ronnie running the show. Be a seamless transition, I would imagine, and so we're very, very excited about that. Quick update on the speed cushion on Mcknight. This is something that I had requested the board look at back in December, and it was sent to public safety, I think it was. And the reason for that was I was concerned about the crosswalk on Mcknight at Sonora and how fast the cars are going. And even with the blinking lights, we noticed that people still were not slowing down, and it made it very difficult for folks to cross, kind of like the game of Frogger, for those who remember that video game. And I thought that if we put a speed table as part of the crosswalk, it would hopefully require people to slow down and draw their attention to folks who might be trying to use that crosswalk. So Ladou's mayor, I spoke with her about it. She's absolutely on board with this. Their public works department was going to take a look at it in February as a pilot program. They've now kicked that down to their next public works meeting, which I think is in April. So I was hoping to get them to sign off on it and start looking at installing this in May. Unfortunately, they want to look at it a little bit longer. It would be a pilot program, probably 90 days to see how that goes. But we can't do this alone. It would make no sense for us to install it and not have Ladou, do the same thing. So we're going to wait to see what they do, and hopefully their public works department will come back with a recommendation to go ahead and join us so that we can put one on there and see how it goes. Lights in York, we're still working on that. We still have 5 solar powered lights that we intend to install in York to help the residents as they walk at night, and to help our police as well as they're patrolling the area. They're still trying to establish the 5 best spots, but we do have the lights. Purchased them, I believe, last year, and they're sitting in our public works garage. So that's where we are on the lights in York. Rosalie Avenue, we're installing the radar speed limit sign in the 8700 block of Rosalie, and that should be completed soon if it's not already. Speeding, you know, that's always been an issue, and I think I said this maybe at the State of the City speech, but it's kind of nice, and I think it kind of tells us where we are. I know we're still in the pandemic, but I think we're starting now to kind of get a handle on that, what we have to do, the modifications we have to make to keep people safe. And we're now started focusing back on things that we were trying to address before March 2020. And right at the top of the list is speeding. And I'm happy to say that we've taken a bite out of crime in a sense. Well, I haven't, but the police department has. The police department assigned an officer to the residential neighborhoods to do traffic only enforcement from, I want to make sure I got the dates right here, January 25th through February 12th. So essentially about a 3-week period. And by my count, this one officer issued over 100 citations. It could be speeding, it could be registration of the vehicle, it could be a number of things. And the officer also got out and walked the neighborhoods and interacted with the residents. Our feedback from the residents were nothing but positive. We thought this was a really good program started by our department, and hopefully they can continue. It's always a manpower issue. You know, we're down one officer because the deployment into the commercial district, and so one of our patrols is down one officer, and we could always use more police officers. And that is something that I know Alderman Plufka talked about as part of the budget for 2021, and I believe he was able to convince the board to set aside funds for an additional officer if we get that far. And so that is something that the board will be taking up, the creation of that additional officer. But it's wonderful to see that even shorthanded, our department was able to do that. Again, this is just during the daylight hours, so that during the night they're focusing in on something other than speeding cars. We do have Chief Speece in attendance also, so if I've misstated anything, I'm sure he'll correct me. And if he has anything to add, he certainly will do that as well. Chief, are we good on all that, or do you need to correct anything that I said, or is there anything you care to add?
No, excuse me. No, it's everything you stated was accurate, Mayor. And really, as we go forward from that 3-week period last week, we will be selecting dates to do it again. It is a challenge, to your point about manpower. So we juggle a lot of different issues that happen in Brentwood in terms of crime and public safety issues, obviously. So but traffic safety is certainly high on that list as well.
Good. Public Works, we had a huge snow event last week, and the week on Valentine's Day, I think it was, when it all started, or the next morning, it caused a lot of problems. And part of our problems is that essentially we have 4 trucks that we use for plowing and salting and pre-treating. And on the day, the big event, the 15th, 2 of our trucks went down. I think it was that day, the 15th, or it may have been on Tuesday. 2 of our trucks were down, which meant that we were down to 2. And we had a brand new pickup truck. I think they outfitted that pickup truck with a plow just to try and help. And it could not have happened at a worse time, those 2 trucks going down, because that snow just continued. And it was very cold, and so normal treatment was not working on the streets. And I know I heard a lot of complaints about that, but I hope people understand that it wasn't for lack of effort. It was just, those were the circumstances. And we try to get those trucks repaired as fast as possible. One part, I believe, one of our employees had to drive all the way out to St. Peter's in that snowstorm to get the part, to bring it back, to install it, to get that truck back on the street. So, when you're providing that service like we do, we own our own trucks, we own our own garbage trucks. means that we have to maintain those. We're responsible for those. And that's one of the costs that goes along with providing these services. You know, it's a wonderful service because we have complete control over it. We're not dependent upon some outside group coming in and plowing the streets. And, but sometimes those things happen. And, you know, we do our best to make sure that they're operating well. But as you all know from operating your own car, sometimes these things just happen and you have to respond. But they plowed and treated the streets on Sunday the 14th, Monday the 15th, Tuesday the 16th. They received additional salt quantities of about 100 tons on the 16th. They ran routes and continued to clear snow around parked vehicles from February 17th through the 18th, since around 7 inches of snow in total was in the roadway. During the week of February 22nd, staff will focus on filling potholes and other street maintenance since winter weather has impacted pavement citywide. I know Brentwood presents a bit of an issue. I think it's in terms of cars parking on the street. It makes it difficult for our snow trucks, our plow trucks to deal with that. And, you know, this is the land of single car garages, if a garage at all. There's really not a lot of difference between us in Maplewood, Richmond Heights, or the city of St. Louis. You know, anybody who has a number of cars, I have 4 cars. Thankfully, my son has one of them up at college. So I'm dealing with 3, but I've got a single car garage and I could not get a car in that garage. So, you know, what I try to do, and thankfully my cars are fairly small, I can actually pull all 3 into the driveway, and which allows the plow truck to get by. Now, the problem when I do that is I end up blocking the sidewalk. And I know that there's a posting by our police department about, you know, asking people not to do that because it does create a public safety problem with people having to then walk out in the street. I would imagine, though, on those rare instances where we have the snow that we did, it would be permissible for a short period of time to go ahead and park your car in the driveway just so that they can plow the street, because something tells me that we are not going to have a whole lot of people using the sidewalks anyway. But, you know, it's a delicate balance. You know, what do we want to do? And I'm not sure there's a right or wrong answer to that. But if you are going to block the sidewalk, you know, preferably it would be for a very short period of time. Let the trucks do their thing and then go out and put your car back out in the street. But as a general rule, we do request that you not block those sidewalks for obvious reasons, because it does require the pedestrians then to use the street, which is not a safe thing. We have a municipal election coming up on April the 6th. And the absentee voting, I believe, has already started. On the ballot, we have we have races coming up for the city. We have for the mayor, the judge, and 4 of the 8 aldermen, 1 for each of the 4 wards, maybe 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are on staggered terms, the aldermen are. And so they're up every 2 years. Some are on the odd years, some are on the even years. So this year we have David Plufka, who is running unopposed. We have Brandon Wegge from the 2nd ward running unopposed. We have Steve Lockmuller from the 3rd ward running unopposed. And we have Ward 4, which was Pat Ebeling's ward. She has decided not to run again. She helped out Ward 4 last year with the resignation by Tom Kramer. Pat was willing to step in and fill that void so that they had some representation, but with the understanding she was not going to run in 21. You know, she's given already a lot to the community, and you know, so they need somebody else to step up. And they have 2 people running in Ward 4 for that open alderman seat. There are also Prop Y from MSD is on the ballot. I would encourage anybody to take a look at that. Again, that's a proposition by MSD, not by the city. The city is not asking for any money from anybody. As far as I know, there aren't any bond issues. There isn't any from the city. Let's see, Brentwood bound, things are doing great. Few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I think it was, we took the Board of Aldermen on a tour of the Brentwood bound area. You know, to date, we have spent I don't know the figure off the top of my head. It's more than 20, less than 30 million for property acquisition and for moving, relocating those businesses. I think we have now demoed 12 buildings back there, and I think 6 more are going to be coming down shortly. And the transformation already is truly incredible. If you walk back there, you can see what used to have just warehouses and these buildings, which obviously would displace water and push water north. Those buildings are now gone. And MSD is in the process of putting in their huge pipes, which I think are about 5 feet in diameter. But it's a massive project back there. But we are still on schedule, under budget, and things are going fantastic, which is truly amazing when you think about what we went through last year. We recently approved a demolition bid. I think this is our 3rd one maybe, which was ended up costing us only about maybe 55–60% of the amount budgeted, which means essentially there's a savings of $300,000 because we thought we were going to spend substantially more on this than what we will have to. So that's good news. COVID still exists. We still have to take steps to protect ourselves. The good news is what I have noticed is I think people are more compliant now. And I talked to Lisa Clancy, our council person, about this. We try to have monthly meetings with our council people. And I brought up with her Brentwood days. You know, we had to cancel it last year. And part of the reason was it wasn't that it was outlawed by Sam Page at the time we canceled it. We just didn't know what Sam Page was going to do. At the point where I decided we needed to look at canceling this was at the same time that we had to look into securing contracts by vendors. And we're talking about $100,000. And if we secure those contracts, what I didn't want to have happen is for us then to have to cancel Brentwood days and we lose that money. So in an abundance of caution, and we didn't know what our finances were going to be, did it make sense to commit $100,000 to this annual carnival when we might have been in dire straits financially because of the shutdown of the business and the resulting reduction in sales tax revenue? So because we were concerned about the money, we didn't know where we were going to be in the fall. And because we didn't know if we would even be permitted to have Brentwood days in the fall of 2020, I thought it was best just to go ahead and cancel Brentwood days. Now, here we are, almost a year later, from the first, when COVID really came out, when all became made aware of it, which was about the 3rd week of February of last year. And I see a lot of differences. And this was my point that I made with our council person, with Lisa. I said, you know, we know a lot more now than we did February 2020. People are much more compliant now with social distancing than they were even into the summer of 2020. You know, I can't speak for all St. Louis community, but I can say, you know, I go to the stores frequently and I can count on one hand, and I'm not exaggerating, the number of times I've seen somebody not wearing a mask. Everywhere I go, everybody is masked up. People are socially distanced. They are doing the things that they are supposed to do. Our numbers continue to drop. And now people are getting vaccinated. So what we're trying to do is project fall of 2021. And you know, I didn't ask Lisa to get a commitment from Sam Page because obviously we don't know. But what I did ask her to do was to ask him to kind of model where things might be, because we're not the only ones that do things in the fall. A lot of these communities, they all look at the 3rd weekend in September. You know, the Balloon Glow, that's the 3rd weekend in September. Brentwood Days is the 3rd weekend in September. There are other municipalities that do it as well. Clayton has their annual art fair over Labor Day weekend, I believe. So when I was making this point and this request to Lisa, Michelle Harris, Clayton's mayor, joined in and said, yes, you know, she would like to see that as well. So we can get some guidance because if we do have 300 million vaccinations, or enough vaccinations to vaccinate 300 million people by the summer, which is what President Biden, that's his goals, to have enough vaccinations. Hang on just a second here. Then what if we can get that many people vaccinated by the summer, and that coupled with the level of compliance, I don't know why we couldn't have some version of Brentwood Days. But we can't wait until July or August to make that decision, because we've got to secure things. We got to start looking at getting contracts. So that's where we are. I've had a lot of people ask me about Brentwood Days. I know the high school alumni association is very interested in it, because they have their annual event tied to that as well. So there's a lot hanging on it. I just want to let people know that I am looking into it, and I'm trying to figure out a way. How do we, where's that crystal ball? What is that going to tell us? Where are we going to be in the fall of 21? We can take the ultimate conservative approach and just say we're not going to do it again in 21, but I really do think it is a community event, and if we are in dire need of something like that more than at any other time, so that people can get out and they can see one another, because they have been locked down for too long. But with the understanding we have to do this in a safe way. Let's see here. The other thing I wanted to mention on the COVID area was Richmond Heights is kind of like the designated area, and Chief Catrell could speak to this more than I can, for vaccination. So Chief, if you would explain to the folks on the Zoom about what they're doing in Richmond Heights.
Yes, Mayor. So to become a vaccination site, it's quite a lengthy process. You have to have approval from St. Louis County, and you have to have approval from FEMA. So the city of Richmond Heights took on that task for this region with the understanding, and they put the request out to the neighboring municipalities requesting help specifically with manpower. Manning this vaccination site for a long period of time is going to be labor intensive. And we knew none of these municipalities could do this on their own. So the site opened at the Heights yesterday. They provided 70 vaccinations with the intent of next week increasing to 200 vaccinations per day. So they're going to have a schedule Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of each week for a month, and then reevaluate, reassess, see how many they've been able to distribute and the demand from the community. So we are going to be providing firefighters and paramedics both to fill in some shifts over there to help vaccinate some folks.
Great. Okay. There's one other thing that I forgot to mention about the street lights is if you live on a dark street, or if you notice a dark street, reach out to us, reach out to your alderman, email me, contact Bola Conde, our city administrator, Dan Gummersheimer, director of public works, and communicate that, because that's how we find out about these. I mean, Dan did a phenomenal job 3 years ago coming up with an inventory of spots that he thought, based on a light meter, that were really needed some help. And we've addressed that. So now we're looking at the next level. And so if you see some, if you think there's one that is in need of a street light, just let us know, and we'll turn it over and we'll take a look at it. So with that, I have nothing else. So I'm going to open it up. I see Lois has her hand up. So Kelly, if you can help her, make sure she can talk.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can, Lois.
Okay. Thank you for doing this again. And I'm just wondering about the street lights on Rosalie. I know that is already supposed to be in the mix, but I don't hear anything being said about that.
Dan, I think, could probably address that.
Okay, can you hear me?
You can, Dan.
Yeah, it's all part of that package with the sidewalk. So it'll happen this year. Right now, Horner and Schifrin is putting together the final plans. Those will go out for bid in probably March, April. Then they go to MoDOT for concurrence, if they agree with the bids that are received. And then I would expect the notice to proceed probably sometime in the summer of 21, June or July. And then the contractor would move forward with the sidewalk and lights under that contract. So they should be working, before the fall, I would think, either beginning of fall or middle of fall, but definitely this year. We have to complete it in 21 because that's when we're in the cycle for reimbursement with MoDOT and the East-West Gateway. So the other thing that'll happen on Rosalie is MSD's got that project to replace some sewer pipes, basically to separate the sewer. Right now there's a combined sewer, so you've got storm and sanitary mixing, which, that is not supposed to happen. That's part of the consent decree, is to separate it per the Clean Water Act. So that'll occur in 21. MSD received the easements from us and then some from other owners along that relocation route. So it'll be Bridgeport, White, Rosalie, and I think that's probably it for Rosalie other than MSD and our project.
Okay. Lois, does that answer your question?
Yes, that does. And the speed bump though, that goes in there too, right? In the 8700 block?
The speed table?
Yes.
Dan, can you speak to that? Has there been any commitment on that?
Well, we talked about it at Public Safety. We need someone, if in order to follow the traffic calming toolkit, no one has submitted a form. There is a form online that needs to be submitted by someone that lives on that block. We first started looking at that block. Alderman Wegge said that, he had been contacted about speed concerns, and then we put the traffic data collector out there, collected data, gave that to the police and put it in the weekly report. And then as you had already mentioned, there was the pilot program by the PD and they had written some citations, but to advance the speed cushion concept, there really needs to be someone on that block that would submit the form, and then you'll have to get signatures and all that stuff. We can't just put it in. And even if it is approved, I would recommend not putting it in until next year at the earliest, just because of the sidewalk and the MSD work. MSD, I don't believe, is going to be done until the first quarter of 2022 with their project. So you wouldn't want to put anything on the street that's going to impact either traffic or construction where, it could get damaged, in its infancy. Because I can see there being some dump trucks on Rosalie for, at least a month or two while they excavate and put the pipe in.
3 years, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so where do I get the form? Is it on the Brentwood official page or?
If you go to the city's website, I know you can go to the search engine and either type in traffic calming. I'm not sure where it's positioned. I'll see if I can find it, but I know I'm trying to think if it's with Public Works. I'm just gonna look real quick.
This is the same problem I run into when I look for some things. So.
Oh,
yes.
It's under residents. I'm on the web page now. So if you're on the web page, there's several different headings. It says government, residents, business, visitors. If you hover over residents, there's a drop-down menu that pops up. And then towards the right-hand side of that drop-down, it says sewer lateral repair program, streetlight project, traffic calming toolkit, vacation checks. So it's the traffic calming toolkit hyperlink you want to click on. And then once you click on that, then there's actually, it says NTMP request form. That's the neighborhood traffic management program. And when you double click on it, the PDF opens, and then you would just fill out the information. If you wanted to fill it out for your block, you could, since you live on that area.
Yes, I absolutely will. That will be forthcoming.
Okay. Yeah.
Lois,
Yeah.
I was under the impression that Brandon Waggy was a very strong advocate for one on Rosalie. So you might want, I don't know if you've talked to him about that or not, but
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's why I thought it was kind of a done deal. So I was
Gotcha.
surprised to hear that it's still waiting on something. I will tag in with Brandon before I do anything, but
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I think that's probably a good idea to reach out to him. And like I said, I know last time, he was all in support of this. He thought it's a great idea to put one on Mcknight, and he would love to see one over on Rosalie as well.
Hmm. Right. And then he shared with us the data that was collected. It
Right,
was astounding. I mean, we
right,
see it, but
right. Well, and I think that's why he was so supportive of it. And so I'd reach out to him immediately, and because I think this goes to public safety. I think is what Dan said. But he's also the chair of public works, and you know, he'll
okay.
he'll definitely go to bat for you.
That's very helpful. And thanks, Dan. Thank you too.
Yep, thanks.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Ask about the tree. It'd be Public Works, I guess. You could call them and ask about that.
I just really appreciate all the news that's also on the next door and the other social media kinds of things. That is very helpful. Like when the rumor or whatever started about the gentleman, breaking into houses and breaking into cars.
Right.
And you put the kibosh on that just immediately. And I thought that was excellent. So
Yeah, I had nothing to do with that. That was all our police department. I'm glad that they did that. It's in I won't say anything more about it. I'm thrilled. I agree with you. Absolutely agree with you, Lois. And I mean we've talked about that before about how anybody who has a computer or even an iPhone or a smartphone has the ability to get on Facebook and just put things out there, and it's not necessarily malicious. It's they just might not have all the facts, and unfortunately, people read that, and all of a sudden they start assuming that it's true, and it might be true, but we all need to engage in a little critical analysis when you look at social media. And my view has always been, as a general rule, believe stuff that you see from the city. If the city's posting something, if it's the fire department, it's the police department, if it's the city itself, chances are pretty good that that's going to be really accurate. And again, when residents post stuff, I'm not suggesting that it's not accurate. It's probably accurate as well, but there's also sometimes where there's a misunderstanding. Somebody sees something the wrong way, and we need to help out by providing that information. And I think when you get out on it as fast as we did, that's really helpful.
yes, totally agree.
Okay. Well, unless anybody else has any other questions, I think we'll go ahead and call this. And again, the game plan is to actually do this in person for the March coffee with the mayor. And we'll put notices out there for the location, but we'll do it again in a safe way and in a responsible way. And I'm going to see if there's some way that we can broadcast it simultaneously, if at all possible, for those who aren't comfortable showing up in person, but they still want to go ahead and hear what's going on. So with that, I will say goodbye. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you to all the employees who've attended and have helped out with this as well. So long. We'll see you around.
All right.
Mayor.